Welcome into the I-80 Boys College Football Show. We've got a little Nebraska versus Indiana, the preview video. Chris, I'm going to start us off with Nebraska. Okay, so looking at the Cornhuskers coming into this game, they're 5-1 overall, 2-1 in conference play, coming off of a bye week where they're going to play one of the hottest teams in the Big Ten, if not the country, in Indiana. Chris, Dylan Raiola has been, I think, lights out in the games that he's played. He's been pretty good for being a true freshman quarterback. I thought he's performed just about as well as what a lot of people could have expected for him to perform up till this point. Now, we need to talk about some of the other pieces around him. The running game doesn't look as good as it has in years past. The offensive line doesn't look as good. It looks better than it has in years past, I'll say that, but it still doesn't look up to that level of competing for Big Ten championships, I wouldn't say. A lot of it, to me, is, Chris, you're a Nebraska fan. You know better than anybody else in the world. Nebraska has yet to put a full game together. I have not seen them play a full game yet where they win 48-7. I just haven't seen it. They're a team of two halves, two Hobbs, as we like to say over here on the show. And I just feel like they need to put it together if they've got a shot in this one against Indiana. One of the major things is flags. Every time it seems like they get momentum or they're trying to get ahead of the chains and they start getting some positive momentum, they just get flagged left and right. One of the most penalized teams in the country, if I'm not mistaken. They got to clean that up. They got to use this bye week to try to figure that out. To me, the running game has to take steps forward. I think, is it Dante Dowdell? Dowdle, is that how you say his last name?
Yeah.
So he's been their leading guy. Now, coming into the season, you guys had 3 or 4 running backs. I thought they could start at, a lot of different programs at the Division I level. So they have got to do better at finding the holes. The offensive line's got to create that push. They got to lean on it a little bit and try to play keep away from Indiana's offense. We know they can put up 1,000,000 points a game. So that's what I look for. The passing game, hey, I think at this point, Raiola's kind of showed you enough. Again, you go back to the last few games they played against Rutgers and then Purdue prior to that. Offensively, they have not been in sync. They have not been in rhythm. They have got to clean it up. Secondarily, okay, the defense. I want to talk about that a little bit. I think the defense has played good. I really not a whole lot to gripe about there. The one thing I would say is they're a little susceptible when teams want to kind of pound the rock on them and kind of, lean on that run game a little bit. I feel like they've kind of been, I don't want to say like pushed around, but they've been a little more susceptible to, giving up some of those running plays there. I think other than that, they've done really good. The defense has been exactly what you want it to be. Tony White, the defensive coordinator there, has done a great job, going to be a head coaching candidate probably at the end of this year. Last thing I really want to talk about when it comes to Nebraska, Chris, special teams. Okay. You've got to be able to get those points when you need to. Again, I don't know what it is, but they're going to have to figure something out there as far as the special teams is concerned in this one. Chris, we know Indiana puts up a lot of points. Kind of tell me, what your thoughts on Indiana are going into this one.
Yeah, no, good breakdown of Nebraska there, Christian. You're about spot on there. Indiana, yeah, you mentioned it. They're 6-0. I mean, they've been on fire since week 1. You guys know I'm kind of a stat nerd over here, but the offense, they're averaging 47.5 points per game. I mean, that's a lot for an Indiana team under a new coach and Kurt Stignetti. That's second in the nation. They're 4th in total offense, 32nd running the ball, 10th in passing offense. So, yeah, the numbers look impressive here for Indiana. Mind you, they are favored, by the way. I didn't throw that in there by 6.5, currently 7. So this game is at home for Indiana. Yeah, I don't blame for Vegas and most of the public being on Indiana in this one. But the reason why they're putting up so many points, Curtis Rourke, dude, this guy's looked good this year, the quarterback. He was a transfer from Ohio. I think he played 3 or 4 years there. Came over this year for his senior year. Impressive numbers, Christian. He's got over 1,700 yards throwing the ball, almost a 74% completion percentage. That's up there in the nation. He's got 14 touchdowns and only 2 picks. So he doesn't turn the ball over. Justin Ellison, Tyson Lawson, these guys aren't talked about near enough in the country. These guys are like Nick Singleton and Katron Allen from Penn State. They're a 1-2 combo. Very impressive. They got over 700 yards on the year combined, 13 touchdowns. Elijah Surratt, He came over with Stignetti from James Madison. He's their number one go-to wide receiver on the outside. Omar Cooper, Miles Price, Miles Cross. These guys have been heavily involved in the offense as well. Like I said, Rourke likes to spread the ball around as well here. So, offensively, they've been great. Offensive line has played great. They've only given up 6 sacks on the year too, Christian. So, not a lot of weaknesses offensively for Indiana. Now, we know defensively Indiana's been up there too, and I'm going to talk about this at the end about who they played, but they're only giving up 14.8 points per game. That's 11th in the nation, 6th in total defense, 6 against the run, 21st, against the pass. Now they got 19 sacks on the year. That ranks inside the top 10. They're getting after the quarterback, which is great. So like all these stats I just throw out here, Indiana's basically a top 10 team from, statistic wise. I want to get into who they played. Indiana's only played one top 50 offense this year, and that was Maryland a couple weeks ago. They ended up winning that game, I think 42-28. But other than that, I mean, you really think about Indiana so far, and I don't want to shit on these other teams necessarily, but Northwestern, come on. Maryland, we talked about them. They played UCLA week 4. UCLA is not a very good football team either. So this is going to be Indiana's probably toughest test so far, to be honest with you, as far as what Nebraska can do offensively with, like you mentioned, Dylan Raiola. And as far as this prediction goes, Christian, this is tough for me. I'm obviously the resident Husker fan over here, the diehard, if you will. This game's going to come down to who can make stops defensively. It really, truly is, and who can play the most disciplined. You talked about Nebraska and the special teams issues and the goddamn flags this year. It has been a problem. I also want to throw in that I think Matt Rule has been outcoached in a few games this season as far as timeouts, clock usage, things of that nature. And with Indiana not playing as many great teams so far, I still got to give the nod to Indiana here. It pains me to say it. Nebraska 21, Indiana 27. Christian, give me your thoughts here.
Yeah, Chris, I'm gonna say, I totally agree with you. I've got Nebraska 27, Indiana 30. I feel like, listen, Nebraska's defense has been good all year, but this has to be the best offense they've played. Even outside. I guess you could say Colorado, they put up a lot of points and everything. To me, Indiana's a little more. They're not as one dimensional. So I still have to lean Indiana in this one. Nebraska, to me, they've come into this bye week, Chris, and they've just looked like they've lost some confidence, whereas Indiana has just steamrolled and they've just taken care of business. Now, granted, I understand what you're going to say, whether it's Northwestern or whether it's Purdue, whoever, you know what I mean? Indiana has been the more impressive team to me. They've taken care of their business. You got to believe in Rourke and Cignetti and a lot of these guys. I hate to do it to the Huskers, but I think Indiana wins this one.
Yeah, I also want to add, guys, before we wrap this up, please give this a thumbs up. If you agree, if you disagree, give it a thumbs down. But also want to add this before I get a bunch of comments from the Nebraska man here. Nebraska has, and I am not misquoting this, Indiana's ranked. We have lost 27 straight to ranked opponents. Now, I hope I'm wrong this weekend. I hope Nebraska goes out and wins this football game, Christian, but 27 straight losses to ranked opponents.